Now that it looks likely that the entire commission will be disbanded. How and when that will happen is still yet to be clear. But once that happens, then the debate moves to how to reconstitute that. But before we get to that, Senator Kimani Wamatangi, you were to respond to what Boni Halwale had said.
Well, I wanted to start with what Mutula Kilonzo had said earlier, quickly. Because you see, I just wanted to say to my good friend Mutula Kilonzo that I know they make wine in Yatta. And although he comes from the other side of Ukambani area, but you know you can't preach water and drink wine because you know this argument that that because you have a constitutional provision of 3 commissioners as the minimum to constitute a commission cannot be quorum, and hence if you say that you have quorum, they had suggested 7 members. You know, the best example to follow is what happens in Parliament. We have standing orders. Each committee of Parliament comprises of 9 members, every committee. But the quorum that is allowed by the laws of Parliament to conduct any business is 3 in a committee of 9. So if you met and you have 3 members, you conduct every business. And so what we were saying is precisely that when you have the minimum constitution of 3, you still have a commission. And to make it tenable, you say the majority of commissioners sitting at that particular sitting bearing the minimum number of 3, which is the lowest. And then that was the argument. Now, secondly, you know, at least we understand that after the handshake or even before, NASA had pressed their own self-destruct button before, even worse than IEBC have recently done. But you know, you cannot erase or rub out history so fast. You know, on this argument that you're arguing that you know the commissioners we had agreed that you had agreed in your earlier committee that you have 7 commissioners, and that was a very good way. When you have 7, you have a sustainable number. You remember when we had a big argument with NASA when they were going to evict IEBC from their offices, and they traded their political capital every day on an argument about something they're calling irreducible minimums. Part of those irreducible minimums, they were talking about political parties, and especially themselves being the ones that are going to be nominating members of IEBC. And you know, the argument that we fronted then was, how many political parties do we have registered in Kenya? And even running, whether it's coalitions or individual political parties, for political office. And so if part of what they fought in the streets for was that political parties nominate members of the IEBC, how many commissioners would you have been having? Yes. And so they cannot try to pontificate here that between the Senator Mutula and Boni Halwale, when they were sitting that committee, though belonging to the NASA coalition then, and still supporting the views of the NASA coalition then, cannot be arguing here that that Mutula Kilonzo, that your proposals to have political parties, all of them nominating members, is consistent with the idea you're trying to front now, that your proposal for 7, then the only reason why you would be able to sell that on this platform is because it never came to light of day. Okay.
I'd like to, what is just said, Norman Magaya, the CEO of NASA, tweeted on April 16th, henceforth political parties should nominate IEBC commissioners. Neutrality and impartiality in Kenyan electoral process is a fallacy. Even every Kenyan has an entrenched political inclination. Let's stop the lie. Now, this is the CEO of NASA. So probably this is the understanding from NASA's point of view, that political parties should directly nominate members to the IEBC. Now that you're talking about reconstitution, is that the way to go?
No, let's explain that. First of all, Norman Magaya has expressed his views. That doesn't mean that's the view of everybody. That's his view. It's a personal view, and it's not a view of NASA, because he has tweeted. But the point is, that was a discussion. It was on the table. And let me tell you, one of the biggest proponents of this particular clause was one Peter Kaluma, Mheshimiwa. And he came with all the material, including the practice in England and other places about a commission that is run by politicians. In fact, at the end of the process, when we were explaining to our principals how we ended up with the right criteria, we were being called bad names. Because we somehow did not put the interests of the coalition in the commission. And in fact, the person who rejected this most, and I can disclose here, is Raila Amolo Odinga. Yes. He said he attempted. He had people who he thought were his people in the previous commission. He mentioned Sally Kosgei's husband and others. And he said,
Isaac Hassan?
And yes, Isaac Hassan, Mohamed Elmi. He said, I had people. And that did not provide a solution in 2013. And therefore, this is not a solution. So he came to our rescue because, you know, because we use some little medulla oblongata, intelligence. We thought that is not a solution. It's still not a solution. The solution will come from what Bonnie will tell you. Integrity.
Kusha.
Hey, kuna kitu ingine. Follow integrity. And let me tell you, and I've seen this, I saw this in the Senate, that you sit in a panel to select the person who should sit in a commission. And you after interrogating the person who should sit based on best practice, based on the constitution, and based on the criteria that you have used to interview them, you then pick the worst. And that's how we picked Chebukati. And the only person who stood up to be counted is Honorable Memusi Kanchori. He told us we are going to regret, and we are regretting. So it's because we picked the worst of the lot. Why did we do so? Because, and I've said this in a program where I was with Bonnie Halwale, it was the idea of picking two, let's have lawyers. It was supposed to appeal to the lawyer nation.
The issue of ethnicity will definitely come into play. Political parties are, and you see the kind of debate that's already there, that yes, it's political parties who hold a bigger stake in the election, so therefore they should nominate directly members to that. These are the discussions we're going to have. Should we include the church? Already blaming religious leaders for picking Chebukati, and we are saying they are to blame for the kind of mess we are seeing at the IEBC. But in your own opinion, how should we go about this? Because yes, we've haggled through coming up with ECK, IEBC, IIEC, IEBC. Definitely, even the next commission will be haggling over it.
I think we should avoid trying to reinvent the wheel. If you go to a place like the United States, they have a central electoral commission at the top, but elections are controlled by each state. So that now we have 47 counties. There's no reason why a county cannot conduct this election. In fact, Kenyans should remember that problems normally arise from transmitting results.
Yeah, not the elections themselves.
Not the elections themselves, transmitting the results. So this business of elections being transmitted from the polling station to the constituency, to the constituency, and then to the county, and then to IEBC in Nairobi, creates room for interference. So if every county will do its election, the decision at the polling station is transmitted to, the decision at the polling station is final. Whatever number of votes you've gotten at the polling station, because it is being announced by an official of IEBC, is final. Why should it be reviewed when it has been transmitted to the next level? We do that, then somebody can sit down without even the media. You would be reporting on the outcome of the election long before the...
But we'd still need the IEBC.
Yes, that's why I'm saying at the top, it has to be very small. And therefore, Mutula and I, when we were pushing that we have a leaner commission, they have nothing to do in Nairobi apart from fighting over tenders.
But the problem is, even a leaner commission, you will still haggle over how to come up with those one or two individuals.
No.
You'll have given a greater responsibility to the counties, and you'll have made them efficient at that level. So the guy at the top is doing something just on a calculator.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please.
You see, the idea of having numbers, the 3 to 9, is that we have imported all sorts of manners of criteria, including tribe, minorities, ethnic balance, balancing the country into regions, etc., in trying to come up with a commission. And that's a problem. That lawyers and campers want to see a person so that they have faith in the commission. We are using the wrong criteria because the country has 43 tribes.
But don't you think we'll
is it possible? Is it possible? Is it possible really between 3 and 9 or 1 to 9 to have the face of Kenya in a commission? It's not possible.
Impossible.
So one of the things that we must do as a country is accept the principle that merit and integrity must come first. That is one. so that we don't, and remember the argument, there was an argument. How can Chiloba, who comes from Western Kenya, and Chebukati, who comes from Western Kenya, be in the same commission? It was an argument. Why would you put two people who are lawyers, as opposed to what sort of qualifications do we have for Chebukati? What has he done that is so magnificent? Are we saying that
you're so different that this time around?
And the last one,
the same argument. I'm certain we'll be
and I have a last one.
Yes.
The last one is this, and it's a very important issue.
You know, he took my turn, so I should.
I don't worry. You'll go around. But the last one is this, and it's a very key issue. The elections in Kenya are the most expensive in the world. It costs $25.1 per person. It costs $4 in Rwanda, $5 in Tanzania, $4 in Uganda, $1 in Brazil, $1 in India, Costa Rica, and other nations. One of the things that we must change is the cost of elections, because it has become a gravy train. Every 5 years, people become rich because of elections. We must interrogate the cost of elections in Kenya, so that when we put men and women in that commission, we are telling them, you're not going there to eat. It's not your turn to eat.
Okay. Senator Matangi.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to start from
Sorry for taking your time.
From where?
No. In fact, you've done better than I was going to do.
Sorry.
I like the facts you've given about
because you took your time, you can't take mine.
Senator Matangi, go ahead.
That should be a trade-off between yourself. and I hope that means that from me, then we jump to you. It's all about the money. But anyway, I wanted to start from where Mutula had left off earlier. And you see the narrative he has very effectively put through on the place of integrity and merit in constituting of our constitutional bodies. And then that would mean further on then in judging the actions and the outcomes of those commissions would put paid and to rest what Boni Halwale had tried to advance earlier is a theory that for example, that the deputy president has got any hand or any works in behind the destruction of IEBC, because you see, once you have individuals in the commission who have no integrity or who have a lot of question marks around the integrity, then you don't need to go and start fishing around for people to victimize or to blame for the outcomes. This story is clear about IEBC.
Yes.
The self-destruction and the fire that's burning them is from inside, not from outside. And so we don't need to start going to look for fishing. And then you see also this big debate that you've brought about. How do we deal with this question of wanting to satisfy every person according to what the forces of the community says?
Yes.
That we want to be seen, we are there. But remember, we did ourselves in, and we have continued to do so by trying to look good other than being straight and legal. For example, the provisions of the Constitution are very clear all the time, and they get pronounced every time when you're constituting anybody in this country. You have to have ethnic balancing. You've got to have regional balancing. You have got to have the big monster that even today has never been settled on gender balancing. And so once we have imposed those kind of conditionalities on ourselves, and especially entrenched in the Constitution, you cannot escape from this unless and until we balance it. And I want to finalize by saying this. See, when you're talking about a body like the IEBC, and now reflect that with what Boni Halwale is proposing, for example, elections that are conducted at county level, results conduct. Of course, that's what happens even today. But if you focused more on that, especially for the national competitive positions, now what you're saying at that particular time is that if again now you have a body that will be making the final decisions there without at least a better part of it reflecting that balance of either ethnicity and region, then you would have the worst unending and continued chaos in this country that would never end. Because how will you convince all those lawyers in the whole of that western part of our country that they had this election in that place and this place, and they said that our man who won in this place is Boni Halwale if he was running for a national position? And then if you go to look at the people who will then validate that decision, there is no representation. And if that resort was either toppled or changed, rightly or wrongly, you would never convince them.
Yes.
And so you would have probably in our 47 counties, or call them the earlier formation that we had of our 8 provinces, you would have unending battles between the two.
And that's
each
exactly
one of them
what we
having
have,
their own kingpins.
it sounds very ideal to mention integrity, and that's an ideal way, and we hope that's what we should achieve. But we know the reality on the ground is not that. As Bwana Kimani Wamatangi rightly put it, part of our laws demand that ethnic balance is achieved, that gender balance you have to look at, regional balance as well. That already puts us in a problem. Even if we do not have properly a qualified individual from a certain region, he still has to be in the commission, whether or not he has the required integrity.
You know, Kenyans, we have been repeatedly told that integrity is so difficult to achieve that we don't realize that integrity is just part of life. I come from a background of people who, by the very nature of what we do, you must uphold integrity. Doctors. Imagine a situation whereby an anesthetist who is going to send you to sleep, imagine a situation whereby that anesthetist was not a person of integrity. It means he can be bought to take you to sleep forever. And then he tells people, no, this patient just died in the normal way. So integrity is achievable, and not just in my profession. Akombe demonstrated that integrity is possible. Kenneth Matiba demonstrated that integrity is possible. What we need to do is to see some action from 2 institutions, ethics and the EACC and the NCIC, see some action being taken against.
When you take us back to EACC, that's the most helpless place you've taken us to.
Yeah, but what do I do? It is the one we have legislated. It is the one which is in law. Something, and nothing else is there. So we need to see action being taken by that institution, action being taken by the institution of the DPP, Director of Public Prosecutions, against the people who rep the thing we are trying to achieve, i.e. Integrity. Coming to the issue of ethnicity, and going specifically to Chebukati, my brother and my brother Chiroba, they were not picked for purposes of conducting the election. They were being picked because Jubilee was hungry for Luya votes. And the most vulnerable, they thought, was Trans Nzoia and Bungoma, which has got a clan called Bukusu. And I mean a clan. There's nothing like a sub-tribe in Luya land. It has got a clan called the Bukusu. So they took from one Luya clan, hoping that they will sweep all the votes there. As soon as these boys were put, not boys, these men were put in office, they realized that they were supposed to take instructions. And Mutula, do you know what happened? The first instruction they were given, that all returning officers, results will be returned in those regions by people.
But don't you think that's the same position we'll find ourselves in a few months' time? Results would be returned from those counties, 5 counties, by members from one community, the Kalenjin. All returning officers were Kalenjins, in the constituencies and in the counties. It was pathetic. And when at the end of it, they discovered that they would not get the result they wanted. That's why Chebukati is no longer attractive. Chiroba is still a bit attractive. I'm still trying to find a solution because the discussion. Gentlemen, I'm next. Let's have some discussion.
I'm next.
But you know, he took our time.
Yes, allow me to get this discussion, because we're talking about how we're going to go about reconstituting this. Yes. You've talked about the ideal way, and that's just going about integrity. But
I'm talking about the criteria of the commissioners.
Yes.
There's still another aspect.
Yes, because Senator Matangi put it that yes, we still have to achieve regional balance, ethnic balance, gender balance, and all these things.
If the commissioners are 5, how will you get?
Which puts us in a problem from the word go.
No. You know, there's no place in the constitution of the commissions that the criteria of appointing commissioners has got something to do with tribe. That is not a criteria.
But when you do regional balance,
we have just lowered the standard. We have just lowered the standard so that we can have what Dr. Alwale would call the placebo effect. Since there's a Luya as chairman and Luya as CEO, the Luya sleep easy. That doesn't work. It doesn't work in any country. A country like India, let me tell you, that I've just given you an example where the elections is $1 per person. As 1 billion people, they conduct elections for 36 days. 36 continuous days. They have 3 commissioners. And they have so many tribes and castes that you can't even write them on a board around this place. So, and they have so many things that, the criterias, unlike tribe, they have caste, scheduled caste, they have what, the Barmans, everybody is there. But they still found a formula found around a few people, a strong commission, running professionally. That's it. The third criteria is this. And I get bothered. I was interviewed recently, and I will not disclose about what, but it was about a person who was appointed recently. That by the time the vetting started, the people who sat in that vetting panel in Parliament already had a name. So other than picking the criteria of the commissioners, we as politicians must take responsibility, political responsibility for letting Kenyans down by subscribing to directions from the executive and other quarters to put in people who will be subject to those directions and control that Senator Boni Halwale is talking about. So while we blame all these guys, Gina Chebukati, the immediately effect commissioner, and others, and Chiloba, the fact is that the primary responsibility of ensuring that there's compliance is ours, and it resides in Parliament. So therefore, even though we might blame the political forces, we ourselves have led to this problem. We have carried our political agenda into these commissions. They are going to fail unless we change. But I have given one criteria. We must think of a foreigner, even if it's temporary. We had a selection.
At least you've given us a way
forward. Yeah, we had a selection criteria that was temporary.
We need to wrap up this discussion.
A foreigner,
so that we discuss
a foreigner chairperson.
So kindly offer us a solution on how to.
Yes, a judge of high repute who is a foreigner from a Commonwealth country as chairperson.
They would kill him. Kindly give us a way.
We'll give him security.
Hiring Mutula Kilonzo, although that's not how we really wanted to start, but hiring of foreigners has not changed anything. Remember, we have in Parliament a report called the Kriegler report. Kriegler was not a Kenyan.
Yeah, even Sachs. Sachs.
Including Sachs. And those reports are there. But if you look in content and context, and then the results of what they had come to do, or the reasons why they had been brought into this country to address big issues that then were there. If you ask anyone right now, has the Kriegler report affected anything right now? You know, in the way we do our things, in matters of either land or whatever, you have a very negative answer. But this is what I want to say first. You know, if we want to advance this debate, and let's be honest, Fred and our viewers this morning, unless we want to first deny who we are and our history and how we conduct our things. Because remember when we came up with our constitution, it was one of the longest argued and harangued documents ever in the history of constitution making. For more than 25 years, people are trying to find out find between themselves, various teams and bodies and organizations, what can we say in this document that is going to look like, at least it is more appeasing and binding and bringing people together. And that's why you find, remember, and this is what I said, that it is in that constitution that we put in pen and writing that every constitutional body has got to have this attributes to it. And that's why you have those issues of ethnic balancing and regional balancing and so on. And like, for example, then IEBC and others are constitutional bodies. But ask yourself, if you want to then find out who are we really, even as we sit in this panel. Look at the discussion that was fronted by Boni Halwale. And he said that during the last election, the saddest thing that happened was that the returning officers in every polling station in their area were Kalenjins.
True.
Could be true, could not be true. But what I'm saying is the content of it. Now that tells you the argument is who are we really?
We have to look at everything
the sentiment
ethnic,
the sentiment then there from his people, maybe not necessarily from him, was that the ethnicity of the people who came to be the returning officers here
mattered.
It mattered. Now, so this is what I'm saying, that you know, from the argument that would be fronting as Senator Kilonzo Mutula is saying, that would it would lose meaning and value and no place once you subject it to the reality of what is happening on ground and what we have been and who, I mean, because at the end of the day, and this is the reality of all constitutions, and the reality of leadership in every country. People have got their own unique individual problems.
Senator,
and if you're coming up
through it the same way
if you're coming up with a solution, you have to tailor it around what your realities are.
Okay.
And one of our realities is that we have got 43 communities. Now the issue here
we
would
need to
be,
wrap up that discussion. Yes.
How do we ensure that this representation is there? If there's one thing that would have to say is that really the Constitution tried to come as close as that is, but what I would be agreeing with Mutula is only one thing, that must be mired and married with integrity.
You'll have the final word.
I need a minute. I disagree with Omatangi, and Halwale can confirm, Senator, here, that Kriegler told the country in his one of the recommendations that a commission should not be changed 2 years before the elections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We thought we could reinvent the wheel. Look at where we got ourselves. That is one of the recommendations that we thought we could play around with. Look at what we ended up, Chipukati, Chilopa. Chilobai, yeah. Whatever. Number two, I would like my friend here to look at Article 249. In Article 249, that is the commissions, there is no place where the question of regional balance and tribe comes in. Mm-hmm. In the appointment of the commission, in Article 249, 1 and 2, it is just the law, the commission, sovereignty of the country, and nothing to do with tribe. And therefore, this question of balancing tribes will never come. Now, assuming, for example, lastly, that William Ruto is a candidate, Kalonzo is a candidate, Raila is a candidate, Musalia is a candidate. So you can't have a Kikuyu, you can't have a Kalenjin, you can't have a Kamba, you cannot have a Luya as chairperson. Yet it is possible that we have another competent Luya or competent Kalenjin who can be a chairperson, for example. But based on all these parameters, the country is going to say this, that we will not have another Luya. We have had enough of Luyas.
Is that the reality?
It's a reality, but it's wrong. It's a reality, but it's wrong.
It is a wrong one.
It's a wrong reality.
But that's what I said. But that is who we are as a country.
So Kiptum, Chepgosgei, somebody who is competent and is a Kenyan ought to be the chair. But the argument as to whether they are going to favor Deputy President William Ruto and his presidential quest will come up. Okay. So the solution is here.
You know,
just bring in a judge.
A quick one is
bring in a judge.
Let's allow Bonaboni Halwale to say something on this. Kindly be kind enough to give us a way forward. He suggests that we get a foreigner, a judge, yes, to actually do that, and that's probably one of the things we should consider. Kimano Matangi says we should just do with what we prescribe for ourselves in the law, and if at all it's ethnic balance, we have to achieve it. What way forward do you give us?
Why I would agree with Junior is that so that no particular ethnic community complains,
yes,
let it be a foreigner.
Yes.
So they are all not throwing tantrums. The second thing I want to say is that I will repeat, we must emphasize making elections being done at the county level more efficient, so that this huge thing of managing an election, you can imagine in India, if they were doing everything, what is the capital city of India? Is it New Delhi?
New Delhi.
Yeah. If they were doing everything in New Delhi, they would not manage. So they have decentralized. The US has decentralized. Finally, but not least, a comment on ethnicity, because it's very critical. Yes. If we must take people from tribes, then go for people from those tribes who are the most deserving. At the last interview of 2016, Chebukati, in quotes, failed the interview.
Yes.
The people who won were Caroline
And the Masai.
Adhiambo, and to carry Olekina.
Olekina, yes.
Olekina. Those are the people who should have been given the job. So, because there was no other Masai or Luo in IEBC at that time, these two people should have been given the job. Should have been given the job. The final point I want to make is I want to apologize shortly. I forgot when I was listing the names of the people of integrity. I forgot the man who demonstrated the highest integrity was Chris Musando.
Okay.
You know, Fred, can I just put in something, a very quick one?
Yes.
You know, because
we may not be able to look at another headline.
On that issue of really, and that's a point that's very dear to me, because you know, on how do we really attain our you know, the national fabric?
Yes.
And the big argument to my mind is you know, with the prescriptions that we get all the time, and especially, you know, on being formatted, you know, regimented, that this is the way you should be able to do your things. Because, you see, I'll give you an example. In 1965, from 1956, when Singapore broke away from Malaysia, and from 1965, when they got their independence, and then they were a British colony, when the first Prime Minister, Lee Kuan Yew, took up building that country, knowing that he had different ethnicities within that small province of Singapore, where he had ethnic Chinese, he was fighting a communist, you know, upsurge and pressure from China. He had local Malaysians, he had so many other communities, including Indians. When he was given a prescription that this is the law that you're going to have, this is the kind of constitution you should have, that it is a one-fits-all American version or British, he was bold enough, and he stood and told them, my friends, Americans and you, British, you have people who speak one language in your communities across. And so you can have your own democracy and your own constitution the way you want it. In my country, I have got to deal with my people for who they are. And so I can only make a constitution that will grow this country according to the reality of Singapore. And that is why you find today, after molding and crafting the kind of democracy and constitution, for that matter, that would lead his country. That is why every day, if you talk to anyone today, they'll be telling you, refer to a country like Singapore, not only on economic success, but on cohesion, on how they have succeeded. Every time when you go there, nobody will talk to you about that person. They talk about Singaporeans, but on a version prescribed according to their own making. And that is the whole thing.
So we've already described prescribed
and what we need to do to what we've got is improve on it.
Okay.
You know, the good issues, the good points, for example, like what Mutula Kilonzo Jr. is bringing, yes, attain that, but then, you know, color it, cream it with integrity to its fullest. And then, I mean, because it's not that we are lacking, as Bonnie Halwale says, on people of integrity in the Luya nation, in the Kamba nation, in the Kikuyu. They are people of integrity. You know, but the reasons why you find ourselves failing all the time is because you don't want to go for those people who have integrity, because once you have integrity, then you're not ready or easy to play ball to the other things that matter.